spending cash. If you don't scrub the kitchen floor, you ain't gonna rock and roll no more. Yakety yak. Don't talk back.
Oh, Marvel Studios, we flock your screenings film after film, we anticipate, and then a pandemic hits. And we are left without any MCU content for a whole year, even longer. And then WandaVision starts streaming.
And everyone loses their minds.
If you guys don't know, I am fully invested in the MCU, and I have been since Civil War. And that's actually really when I started following movie releases a lot more closely. So thank you Civil War for that. But now, because some billionaire went to Afghanistan one time, a superpowered girl witch from Sokovia, and a Jarvis, Ultron, Mindstone, Bruce, Tony, Vibranium, robot humanoid are starring in a 50s sitcom.
That feels like an oversimplification.
Oh, and maybe, if you're new here...
Oh, hello there!
I'm Luke, not Luck. There's no C. I like talking about movies and TV.
How original.
And I am moving my content from Instagram to YouTube.
Nice to meet ya.
So, WandaVision. Let's talk about it. Some background information for you. WandaVision is the first MCU Disney Plus show. It is also the first release of Phase 4 of the MCU. But if you clicked on this video, you probably already knew that. So, no spoilers first, as far as I can take it, and then I'll go into more spoiler territory. So let's get started. Going into this show, I didn't quite know what I was getting myself in for. Sure, we could have kind of guessed what the plot and premise was, but we weren't exactly told straight up like we are with a lot of other MCU properties. So this sense of intrigue and mystery was what really lured me to watch this show. And the fact that it's the MCU, of course. I mean...
Obviously.
So when the first 2 episodes dropped in January, I was pretty excited. And then I watched the first 2 episodes, and I thought, why is there a 50s style sitcom
starring 2 Avengers?
I understand paying homage to previous eras of TV, as this is Marvel's first Disney Plus show, but I just wanted to know why.
Why?
And of course we eventually got there, but looking back, I'm not sure how much that hurt or benefited the show, the whole different sitcom thing each week. And I mean that in the sense that the sitcom thing turned into a gimmick and thus the story was sacrificed for the sake of the show. I appreciate what they were going for, but I think that made for a lot of empty screen time, should I say. And although they tried something completely different with this sitcom trope, they just couldn't hold back from going to classic MCU stuff. And while Falcon and the Winter Soldier looks fairly Captain America tone-wise, I have high hopes for Loki to be really something special. One thing that I can definitely praise this show for is that they captured the sitcom feel perfectly, and it kinda made me want to go back and watch some of these sitcoms that are parodied. Your Malcolm in the Middle, your Dick Van Dyke Show. Hell, I feel like rewatching Modern Family, and maybe I'll finally watch The Office.
Stay calm!
The production value was amazing. I mean, you'd think most expensive TV series of all time, you'd expect it to look amazing. They really brought the big screen quality to the small screen, and I can only commend them for that. But what I would say carried the show in a lot of ways, some episodes more than others, would be Paul Bettany and Elizabeth Olsen.
You're like a walking computer.
What? I most certainly am not. I'm a regular carbon-based employee made entirely of organic matter, much like yourself.
They nailed the comedy of each era of sitcom perfectly, and Bettany is just one of the best comedic actors I've seen in a little while. He gives off this slight chaotic energy, and him trying to hide the fact that he's not a human can be quite good.
Norm here's a communist.
And Elizabeth Olsen, like Bettany, was great all around, especially in the more serious moments. All around, the cast is really great. And from a character point of view, this show did a lot for Wanda. Vision too, but it was more Wanda's show, let's be honest. I mean, literally. You look now, everyone's saying Wanda's their favorite MCU character. Well, you probably wouldn't have been saying that in early January. And I can expect the same for every one of these Disney Plus shows to just flesh out certain characters and add more depth to them. And in terms of other characters, is there genuinely a more loved character in the MCU than Jimmy Woo? I mean, Jimmy Woo don't miss. And I think his inclusion in this goes to show how big the MCU is, and they can just pick characters from other movies to put them wherever they're needed. So you have the FBI agent from Ant-Man 2, the sidekick comic relief from Thor, and the kid from Captain Marvel, all showing up to investigate 2 Avengers originally from Age of Ultron.
Wow.
So, what else is there to talk about without going into spoilers? I don't know if there is that much. Who am I kidding? If you're watching this, you've probably seen WandaVision. If not, go watch it. But here's your spoiler warning. Or go to this timecode if you wish to avoid spoilers completely. WandaVision might just be the most MCU thing the MCU has ever done, especially the finale. But let's talk about the lead up to what frankly felt like a bit of a letdown. Some people love it, some people hate it. I'm on the fence, but I don't know how much longer the fence can hold for. For the most part, we largely suspected that Wanda sort of created this reality herself. Why it was a sitcom? Well, we eventually got that answer, but like I said before, I see that as more of a gimmick than a storytelling device. Because although it did have this chapter-like feel to it, it kind of took a while to get going, especially the first 2 episodes, which the more I think about it, are definitely the worst ones. Some people might say episode 7, but like Modern Family, it's my favorite sitcom, and in terms of fan response, Marvel kind of shot themselves in the foot by making each episode so distinctly different in that fans were comparing them, and when one didn't quite live up to the last 2, it was instantly the worst one.
This is the worst thing I've seen ever.
And as for the weekly release, I will defend the weekly release until the day I die. But the episodes just had to be longer or something, because more often than not, it just didn't feel like enough. So although WandaVision probably would have worked better as a binge release, hell, it probably could have worked as a 2-hour movie. With the weekly release, literally everyone and their mom was talking about this show. Mephisto this, Mephisto that, and that whole big theory thing. I think we forgot that this is a show about Wanda and not a fan service thing that's going to introduce the Fantastic Four and the mutants. We were definitely spoiled with Endgame, and in a way, I'd blame The Mandalorian for setting those kinds of expectations, because WandaVision, Mando, both Disney Plus, you can see where I'm coming from. And in defense of the weekly release, let's take Netflix for example. With Disney Plus, new episode every week, you're anticipating the next one, you're talking to people, building hype. When Stranger Things 3 came out, I did an experiment where I watched it all in one sitting. Started at 10 AM, finished at 6 PM. I very quickly forgot about it in the following days. You see what I mean? Going back to Wanda, they did a really good job of covering her grief of losing Vision, especially in the last 2 episodes and how she finally accepted it. Because I don't actually know if the first 7 episodes did all that much for it. It was all set up and no real answer. The very large majority of it was in these last 2 episodes. And I think episode 8 is easily the best one, and none really come close, even if we don't learn anything new for the most part. I think a lot of that is down to Lizzie Olsen and her acting, especially in this scene. And of course, then we get a setup for episode 9, but that doesn't quite undermine the rest of the episode. And before we talk about the finale, let's talk about one of the biggest talking points of the show. This guy.
How the fuck would you show me something if I couldn't have it then?
I just don't know what they were trying to do with this casting. I understand Agatha trying to get into Wanda's head by tricking her into using her dead brother, and I genuinely enjoyed that Halloween episode, not only because of the very comic accurate costumes, because everything that he said was just...
What did he say?
But why, Marvel? Why would you cast the guy who played Quicksilver in the other Marvel movies, probably the coolest part of all those movies, only to make a dick joke?
Why?
It seems so uncharacteristic of them to do something like this. So was it just a troll? I don't get it. Part of me hopes that they didn't do this for no reason, because that seems very uncharacteristic of Marvel. I mean, the whole show doesn't seem characteristic, both in a good way and a bad way. On the villain side of things, they didn't exactly do great in that department either. Agatha's motivations weren't exactly clear. She just wanted Wanda's power. I mean, I'm sure she'll show up down the line, maybe in a Doctor Strange 2, but while we all knew she was... What was her endgame? And Hayward, he might just be the worst MCU villain yet. But is he even a villain? Well, the show certainly made him out to be, although his intentions may have seemed good to try and save the people of Westview. The fact that he was determined to kill Wanda made him look like a bit of a douche in his outright hatred for her was never really explained. He played the classic white guy government dude who wants to kill the thing that's not really wanting to hurt you, and there's also a girl who's telling him not to do so because said thing isn't going to hurt them. I can't wait to see them in Godzilla vs. Kong. So now I think we've talked about everything of importance. Let's talk about the finale, because like I said before, this might be the most MCU thing the MCU has ever done. In terms of stakes, there aren't really any. Now, looking back at the MCU, most of them do seem to have fairly big stakes, but for some reason when I look at this episode, it felt like there weren't really any. It's all very contained, and for some reason, that makes me think back to other MCU films, but how else is it the most MCU thing, I hear you ask? Well, we have not one, but two cases where two similarly powered beings, but with different colors, fighting with each other. I mean, we definitely haven't seen that before in the MCU. It's kind of their trademark by now, although it is also a very prominent thing in things like the DCEU and more. But the moment between Vision and Vision where they just talk pure philosophy, I thought that was pretty cool. And how else is the finale textbook MCU, you may ask? Well, the poorly timed cut to some mediocre comedy, especially mediocre this time round.
Boner.
Why the father fucking fuck?
Not to say the finale was all bad. I enjoyed seeing the family fighting together. And Wanda's costume, I mean, need I say more? If you thought you saw a lot of Harley Quinns on Halloween 2016, I got news for you. And once all the fighting was done, we got some genuinely great, quiet moments between this family that we've come to know over these episodes. It's some emotional stuff and really gives some weight to Wanda and Vision's relationship. The way him and the twins just sort of accept death is kinda sad, yet powerful. Well, we'll see if they'll really stay dead. I mean, they gotta be dead, right? Surely. Everyone who dies in the MCU stays dead.
I'm not.
That was really the icing on the cake. And I'm guessing that will be further explored in Doctor Strange 2. And White Boy Vision is out there somewhere, so I'm sure he'll be showing up at some point. And I see a lot of people rewatching this finale.
Joey, we just saw it. And it would be cool to see it again. Yeah!
WandaVision.
And to me, the fact that you have to watch a finale again the very same day, it just isn't a good sign. So what have we learned from this show? One is definitely that we shouldn't get ahead of ourselves with theories, because we were spoiled with fan service in Endgame. And if the other Spider-Men do actually show up in No Way Home, then that'll be more of the same. But for these Disney Plus shows, I think we have to lower our expectations for what we might see. Leave it to the movies. And another thing.
Another one.
Actors just gotta shut up on teasing cameos and things. Just don't let them do any interviews, because all three of these people teased some huge cameo, and that seems to be a trend now, to tell fans or imply that there's going to be some big appearance. You saw it in Mando, apparently we'll see it in Justice League, but can we please not make this a trend? Otherwise it just feels like going...
Door number 3 is the one I'm going to show you for your 59 cents right now, and Sharon...
Okay, I'll admit, part of me really wanted Fassbender and McAvoy to show up to fix the cable or something. But people gotta stop borderline spoiling their stuff, because, as Paul Bettany himself has said many times,
Snitches end up in ditches.
So, you're still here. You're here for the rating, aren't you? Well, it's a tough one, because shows are always harder to rate than movies for me. Unless it's The Boys Season 2, which is an easy 10 out of 10.
Fucking diabolical.
And now, the fact that it's an MCU show, and inevitably I'm going to do a big ranking after Spider-Man No Way Home, it's going to be tough to put it in said ranking. But I think my rating for now is a 7.5 out of 10. And if I were to sway higher or lower, it would probably be lower, because although there was a lot that I liked, it definitely has its problems. That's no secret. Does this turn me off future MCU properties? No.
You gotta be kidding me.
Falcon and the Winter Soldier looks awesome and something far more my speed. As a stepping stone into Phase 4 of the MCU, I think it served its purpose, but there is definitely room for improvement, and I look forward to seeing more Wanda in the future, because supposedly she's going to be a main focus of Phase 4. So, if you've somehow made it this far,
It's done.
Yes, Mr. Frodo. It's over now.
Thanks for watching. I'd really appreciate it if you'd leave a like on the video. It only helps. Maybe even a comment on what you thought of WandaVision and what I can improve on in my videos. The next video you can expect is a Raya and the Last Dragon review coming in the next few days, and then we'll see where we go from there. Peace!